Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Welcome to this episode of The Murder Part. Tonight we'll be looking at the case of Ben and Lynlee Renick. We'll start with introductions. Jeff?
Hi, everybody. Good to be back. My name is Jeff Pincin, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor in states of Delaware and Pennsylvania. And if you leave a comment or question underneath the video, we may respond in future episodes. And I'd like to highlight my shirt here. Some friends of mine decided they were going to dress up as me for a Halloween party, and they made this shirt, the Murder Podcast, they called it, by Jeff Pincin. And they insisted that I wear it the next time that we record. So here we are. Dave, Jim, Steve, you guys got it. So if I hadn't become a counselor, I wanted to be a guy people think of when they're in need of a hitman. You need a hitman? Think of me. That's what I wanted to do.
It's an important service.
Right.
Overlooked
exactly.
by many.
Overlooked. Right. I agree
It would be important service for those people who are looking to have someone murdered.
Exactly. Nice. Exactly. Which, of course, is not everyone, but they're out there. People need hitmen.
It's true.
Could have been me. Turns out, you need a certain personality, maybe, certain skills. I lack all of those
Certain
things.
connections.
Certain connections, right. I lack all of those things. So, counseling.
Oh, tough break.
Yeah, right. Really, I was really looking forward to the hitman thing.
Could have had a life.
Yeah, right.
Would have been not actually being the hitman yourself, but like just being the middleman.
Yeah, just the person they think of when they're thinking about murder.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Easy enough.
Yeah. Very good. Mike?
My name is Mike Smith, also licensed professional counselor in the state of Delaware. Currently working as a clinical supervisor at a drug and alcohol rehab. I specialize in narrative therapy, geek therapy. I'm a self-styled expert in all things geek. And if I had not become a counselor, I kind of also wanted to be a middleman. But for like snakes, for like selling snakes, like somebody breeds the snakes and then somebody wants to buy those snakes. And I'm like, okay, well, I know a guy, right?
You know a guy?
I know a guy. Right? I've always wanted to say that, right? Like, I know a guy.
Right.
Turns out I don't know anybody who does snakes, and I'm not a big fan of snakes, so I'm not going to try breeding them myself.
Okay.
Oof. No. So, yeah, that dream died, much like many a snake.
Ooh, yeah. Tough break. So you wanted to be the middle part of the snake handling?
Like the midsection
of the snake.
Of the snake.
Handling?
Not the head or the very tail, but the middle.
Midsection. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Very good. So it has been a while since we've had recorded an episode of this podcast. We have a new studio in a whole new location. And I know there are a lot of people who are curious, like, what happened and what are you going to be doing? We will definitely talk about that at the end of the murder part.
Yeah.
Nobody died in the making of this episode.
Right. Everybody lived. Although the new studio has had its share of snakes. We'll talk about that, yeah.
There you go.
All right. So this is the case of Ben and Lynlee Renick. We've talked about sources before as we go through and we look at these videos. You know, we look at court documents, if we can get them, documentaries. If a book has been written, that's wonderful. Any type of article that you'll see in like the mainstream media that's published on a story. Every now and then you'll get something a little less reliable, like a blog or a Reddit post or whatever, you know. So whenever you see a case like this, you kind of hope to have a little bit of everything. But this one actually has almost too much as far as its coverage on television. If I'm not mistaken, it's been on 48 Hours, Snapped, and Dateline. Right? It's rare that one story, especially kind of a story that's not like huge, would be covered on all three of those.
Right, like the Murdaugh case out of South Carolina, that's covered everywhere. But that's a huge case. Lynlee and Ben Renick actually not.
Yeah, an interesting case. I think one of the more interesting cases, but not one that you were hearing about in the news every day.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening with the snake guy? Like, that's.
I mean, in certain circles, it was.
In the snake community.
The snake community was very involved.
Yeah, it was a very big deal.
It was like it's eating its own tail, getting involved in that.
Yeah, so one of the things I like 48 Hours and Dateline and Snapped. One of the things, though, that I noticed that they do, and I've talked about this before, is, you know, my guess is that in order to get family members to cooperate, they have to make certain assurances. I don't know this. This is just my theory. And probably one of those assurances is they're not going to make anyone look bad except the killer. And sometimes that really distorts the soul of a story. Right? It really does. And it's always bothered me because I look at like this type of analysis to be, we're getting at the truth, not some sanitized version of like victims are perfect and murderers are horrible and there's nothing. That's it. It's 0% and 100%.
Right.
I think that Snapped in particular, I like them, but they have a reputation, in my opinion.
They do tend to be less journalistic and more sensationalistic.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, let's make it a good story.
Yeah. And they change information sometimes. I've detected that seems subtle. And I think they say that. Like, it's not like they're saying they don't. I think that's in there. Or I guess maybe it's implied. I don't know. But I always assume they do. But yeah, sometimes they change things. And I'm like, that's not just a summary. You've actually changed what you're saying something's factual when it's not. Or you're saying something and people are thinking it's factual when it's not. So there were a few inconsistencies I caught between the episodes with this story and other documents. So it's like one of those areas like, well, who was wrong and who was right? It's frustrating.
Yeah.
The basics of the story, I think everybody pretty much got. It was about a murder.
Right.
It involved snakes.
We wouldn't be talking about it on the murder part if it wasn't a murder.
That's true.
Definitely a murder. So let's hear kind of the background of what happened with Ben and Lynlee Renick.
Yeah. All right. So Ben Renick, we'll start with him. He was an internationally recognized snake breeder. He had a large operation in Montgomery County, Missouri.
I wish I'd known him.
If only. You could have been his guy.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
So a large operation. Now, I don't know how snake breeding operations go in terms of size, but they said it, according to Snapped anyway, at any given time he had somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 snakes within his facility.
This is one of those things I was talking about. There's stories that have it all the way up to 5,000 snakes.
Yeah.
So it's like, what was it? You can't count the snakes, really? Like, I don't understand why that's so difficult.
Right.
But maybe they're like, you know what? I'm guessing 3,000. There's a lot of snakes here. Let's just call it 3,000.
You guys go ahead and guess 5,000. We'll split the difference.
It's like, well, yeah, all you got to do is count the boxes, right? No, there could be multiple snakes in some of those enclosures.
Depending on if they've been bred or not.
At any given time, yeah. But I guess it's one of those that they looking at business records, there's a lot of sales of snakes that could look like it's much, much more than he actually would have on premises at a given time.
Right.
So you might have 7,000 snakes over the course of a year, but only like 3,000 at a time because of sales and.
Yeah.
I think that Ben should have updated his snake sales inventory software. I think that was the problem.
Yeah, it could have been.
The barcodes on the snakes weren't they weren't ringing up right.
He didn't have a middleman helping him keep track of things.
He had to update like whatever the snake version of LinkedIn is, like snaked in, or I don't know what it is. Either way, thousands
slithered in.
There you go. Either way, it's thousands of snakes, and they were kept in plastic containers in there. And what he did, my understanding anyway, based on what I heard, was that he would either create new breeds potentially, breed two different breeds of snake or whatever, and create one specifically for what a customer might want. Or it said that he specialized in ball pythons, I think. So something that he was very familiar with, he took very seriously, cleaned the facility, the cages, the containers, was seriously very involved in this, really wanted to make it something very good. And as a result, was internationally known. He was contacted by very wealthy people who wanted snakes, wanted a very specific color, type, things like that.
There is a specific variant that actually has been named after him, the Renick Ghost. It's a version of the ball python that has it's been bred to have less noticeable black scales or patterns. Right. So the black is really muted. Some of the other colors are a little bit more there, so it looks ghostly in comparison to other versions of
right.
the coloration. So he's known for that.
Yeah, and that doesn't just happen. He obviously did a lot of work to get to that point.
Years of breeding.
Right. Yeah. So he and Lynley, they'd been friends before, reconnected in 2011. She was 24 years old. I'm sorry, he was 24 years old. Moved in with Ben not too long after that. Had a child together soon after that, and were married in 2014. Around that same time, not around that same time, but Ben's mother had died from cancer. His father was involved in investor fraud, which might play a part in part of this story. And then his father had taken his own life at some point possibly because of those fraud charges. So the family farm was left to Ben. That might be a key part of the story. So Ben was over-involved. He became over-involved in his business, and that might be the reason of the unfolding events. We'll talk more about it, of course, but Lynley, there was trouble in the marriage. All right, this was documented actually by Facebook Messenger messages. Apparently, that's how they chose to communicate in these final days very frequently. So there was tension. Spoiler alert here. Lynley and some other people were the ones that ultimately killed Ben by gunfire.
Now people are just going to tune out. Now they
Right.
found out
Now
the
they're
end
done.
of the.
Right.
They found the end of the story.
Story's
That's all we
been
need
told.
to know.
Now, one might think if Ben is found in his facility that maybe he got bit by a snake, right? And the venom, whatever, killed him. But that was something that happened and then was quickly proven. We found some bullet shells, and this has turned into murder and not from a snake. So there are a lot of people involved there are a good number of people involved in this, including friends of Lynley, former lovers of hers, people that she worked with, and she owned a spa business. She worked with them. They were kind of accomplices. Only she had told them that there was some mistreatment happening from Ben. So there's a lot of aspects to this, and ultimately, the case was finally able to go to trial in 2021, 4 years after the murder, and we'll talk about how that unfolded. But a lot of people, a lot of aspects to this, a lot of pieces to this, and a lot of strange ones too, because you never really hear about snakes of this magnitude being involved in really many people's lives, especially being their main source of income. So a very interesting case.
Yeah, I don't really have any particular affinity for snakes.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like spiders. Certain people like them, and most everyone doesn't. I put snakes pretty well in that category. Mm-hmm. But certain people really like them, and it looks like Ben had basically designer snakes. So if you wanted like a stripe,
It's fine. My
a
fiance,
lightning bolt.
my fiance
Could do
had a pet snake for a while. He died a little while ago. I think it was over the summer. But having a pet snake is like having a pet rock that occasionally once a month you got to throw a mouse to. That you're not going to really get much out of them other than them sitting there.
So no rolling over, or
No, they're really notoriously difficult to teach tricks to.
Teaching them to speak or anything isn't happening.
No, it only happened once, and that that one got in a lot of trouble. And the rest of them were just like, we're not saying anything ever again.
What kind of snake did she have?
It was a ball python.
Okay.
It was a small one. The reason I knew I really wanted to date her was because she told me the name of her snake. It was Bosk. It's the name of a Star Wars character. Empire Strikes Back, Trandoshan bounty hunter.
yeah, a bounty hunter in the same scene with Boba Fett where he originally appeared, right?
Yep.
So it was at that moment she tells you the name of her snake and
I'm like, oh,
sold.
I gotta date this one.
Done deal.
Like,
All right.
this
That's
Was there an IG robot in that same scene?
IG-88.
And he comes back
Nope.
in
He doesn't.
Mandalorian, right?
No, that's IG-11.
Oh, that's a different
It's
IG.
a different IG unit. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Completely different.
I gotcha.
Wow. This was a lot of them made. Right? Yeah. He was pretty cool in Mandalorian with the arms, spinning the arms around and shoot. I don't know if you saw the unit.
I have
Yeah,
not.
That's pretty good.
It's
You
Star
guys
Wars.
know I haven't.
It's Star Wars. I knew he had. It's Star Wars. Why bother asking Jeff?
Right. You know you're not going to get anything out of me with Star Wars.
It's like Jeff sitting there. Yeah, I've seen the space battles thing. Yeah.
Right. It's the thing with the stars and the wars, right? Is that what it is?
All right. So let's take a look at Ben's story. This is curious because it kind of starts off with a bit of a mystery. But so Ben was born in 1987, and as you mentioned, Montgomery County, Missouri, not Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Completely different
different.
county.
Yeah, different.
I wonder how many Montgomery counties there are. I know there's a lot of Springfield cities,
Probably a few.
Springfield towns, but
There's only one really truly famous Springfield.
With another Montgomery, but not Montgomery County.
Yeah, that's Burns. That's Burns. Nice. First Simpsons joke of the season. Ching. Coming
it
out
will
of the
not.
We
be
should have a
last.
counter right behind us. You know,
Chink.
another Simpsons reference.
No, we just put it right down over here.
There you go.
We'll just put that in post.
So his, so he was born on a farm, right? And he had a brother. The brother's name is mentioned somewhere. I think it's Sean.
Sam.
Sam.
Sam, right? Plays a more of a role in terms of like being interviewed, and I think some of the things like he was in Snapped.
Right.
I think he might have been 48 Hours.
Right.
He didn't play any role in what happened, but just he gave his thoughts on Ben and what in the situation. So in 2008, Ben's mother died after a 15-year battle with cancer. It sounds like it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Pretty stressful on everybody.
Right.
And then 2 years later, Ben started a snake breeding business called Renick Reptiles Incorporated on this farm. And there's all different reports on this farm. There's another one of these inconsistencies I just can't stand. I'm guessing 72 acres based on like all the sources. I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm averaging 72 acres. But there's stories that have it up as high as 80. I think there's one that has it down as 50. Big difference between 50 and 80, but
It's true.
Still a lot of acreage.
it's a big farm.
Acreage. Yeah, it's a big farm.
Yeah, I know it was valued at $700,000 at one time. It was sold for that later on when Lynley sold it after a lawsuit. So it was
Ben and his brother lived on that in separate houses.
right. Lived on that property. Yeah.
By the way, 18 counties in the United States named Montgomery.
Wow.
18. Most of them, 13 of the 18 apparently, were named after a major general in the Continental Army who was killed in the Battle of Quebec
Okay.
in 1775. Thanks, Google.
Very good.
You think we can get some endorsements from that?
Yeah. So this is a rural area, right, where farms would be pretty popular. You have your people that raise probably, I'm guessing, cows, chickens, pigs, and snakes.
Snakes. Right.
Yeah.
Normal, everyday things.
You look in the fields, thousands of snakes. Some are pulling like a plow. So not far from here.
Others are bending over and picking up little snakes, toss them in a basket.
Not far from here is a pretty large Amish population. Mennonite as well, but the Amish are the ones that stand out because they use animals on their farms as power sources,
Right.
and as modes of transportation.
Yeah.
Yes.
On 896, where you'll be going over a hill, and all of a sudden, we're
Horse and
looking
buggy.
at the back of like an orange triangle, and a buggy. Does not look safe.
No.
It's not usually bad, except on like holidays. Like Christmas, Easter, you're traveling anywhere up in Amish country and you're going to end up behind half a dozen buggies. It's just going to happen.
We were going up that way one day, and I don't know the significance of this day, but there were a lot of smaller carriages, buggies, whatever you might call them, just with three people in them. Man, woman, or maybe it was a boy and girl, I don't know. And then another person, not sitting in the seats, but kind of sitting on the bottom.
That was the chaperone.
Yeah, right. And I don't know if this is a same day each year or what it is, but maybe some kind of courtship or something like that. Got to be chaperoned, but they're going out on a ride together. Maybe it's some kind of courtship, something. It was very interesting to see, but there were a ton of them.
It was probably just Friday night.
Maybe it was just
Or
Friday
Saturday
night
or
hangout.
Saturday night. Like,
Just the hangout.
going out to the drive-in. the horse and buggy in barn
Horse and buggy,
raising.
yeah. The barn. It would be the barn raising.
Sit there in the convertible, because it's the open top
Right.
with the two wheels. That's the sports car version, right?
Pull the top down.
It's the coupe version.
1 horsepower. Pull up, watch the barn raising.
And that's it. That's the date.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the movie Witness with Harrison Ford,
No.
and the actress that was in Top Gun. Can't remember her name. The original Top Gun, not the Maverick.
Yeah, which was pretty good. I thought
It was Star Wars with modern fighter jets, right? Think about it, the whole plot. Spoiler alert for Top Gun Maverick, but it was Star Wars.
Yeah,
Think about it. The original was the New Hope.
it was like, let's use the Force to get a missile into an impossible shot. But
What was the name of that actress in Top Gun? Kelly McGillis.
I think it was Kelly McGillis.
Kelly McGillis. Yeah.
I always think Nicole Kidman, but then I'm like, no, immediately, no, that's Days of Thunder.
Yeah, and she was married to Tom Cruise, who was Maverick in both movies.
He was Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder, completely different movie. Yeah,
completely different movie. Yeah. Still Tom Cruise, but it was Nicole Kidman in Days of Thunder. That's how they met.
They were in another one together about where they went out west in the United States, like a kind of like
a river
Western.
runs through it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Either way, Witness was about the Amish and about a spoiler alert for a 1980s movie that probably few people remember, but and Harrison Ford was a tough Philadelphia cop, and this Amish kid, boy, witnessed a murder, and then it was like the mob, So Harrison Ford took the boy back to the Amish to stay safe. It was really actually a pretty good movie. There was a barn racing in the movie, so
of course there was. Yeah. But Tim Allen was in a movie.
Tim Allen was
that? Is that
Tim
was
Allen has been in a bunch of
Amish? Well,
Tim Allen has been in a bunch of movies.
I think he was only in one, actually.
Just one movie.
Just the one.
He had the TV show and then one movie, and that's it.
That's it. That's all he's known for.
Toy Story is the only one.
I think he was with the Amish though in that movie. I don't remember the name of it, but he was hiding out
for richer or poorer.
Yeah, was he hiding out at that point?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he was. I think in that movie he was like an investment banker or somebody who's like screwed over a bunch of people and screwed over the mob. And he and his wife Kirstie Alley played the wife. They ran off to hide in Amish country amongst the Amish.
Yeah, so I don't know how we got in that tangent, but the snakes doing. So the Amish used the horses to pull the plows.
Right.
And the last time we went up there to get some furniture because they make the best furniture
absolutely
in the world. In the world.
It's that handcrafted.
It's incredible. It's incredible furniture. It's expensive too, but it's definitely worth it. Like it lasts forever. Right. But anyway, we saw. It's
definitely not IKEA.
We saw, we saw a 4-horse team pulling a plow.
Yeah.
A 4 horsepower.
Yeah.
Hey. That's the time of the year to see it now too.
That's a powerful plow.
Amish have a very stern look to them. I've noticed much of the time. Very stern look.
Right.
They're serious. They're serious people.
They are, but they're also pretty easygoing. They don't take a lot of things too seriously. Their lifestyle they take very seriously, of course, but. My impression, they don't worry about a lot of stuff. I never asked any person that follows that lifestyle what they worry about, but I get the impression they don't really worry about a whole lot.
Well, they don't have wouldn't have like computers, cell phones,
conveniences,
TV. So
they're depending on the sect. If they're interacting a lot with the outside world, with the English as they tend to call them.
Yep, that's what they call.
They'll use things like. They'll use credit cards and they'll use computers and things to help, especially in their business side of things. But that's because they have to keep up with the world. Right. It's really hard to do an entirely cash business these days. So I used to go to an Amish butcher, and they had a credit card machine and everything. He would come over and use it. He hired. The reason I went to that butcher is because my fiance worked for him for a little while as his social media person. An Amish guy, his social media. He wasn't using the thing himself, but he was having someone else do the work for him, and it worked out for him.
Still good business people. Yeah,
they value being plain, right? Whereas the rest of the world, I think, aspires to like standing out, being flashy, stylish. Plain is like their highest level of accomplishment for attire and appearance.
Yeah,
like very plain. It's a compliment when they.
And they're a million times more humble than now, right? Thank you, Weird Al. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So anyway, you have this snake farm, and the snakes are working hard on the farm, doing whatever snakes do. So Ben converted a barn into what the documentaries kept calling a breeding facility. Right? It looked like it was a bunch of Tupperware bins or Rubbermaid bins with snakes thrown in them.
Yeah.
They were everywhere.
They're just drawers. It's really hard for snakes to pull out drawers. It helps to have thumbs on that.
Usually.
By and large, snakes are lacking those appendages.
Unless, of course, he gets a hold of it. Maybe he could add thumbs to snakes somehow. Breed a snake with something else and add thumbs to it. Imagine that kind of snake.
That would be some big money.
Yeah.
That would be a lot
be
of big
scary.
money. That would be. Yeah, it would be really scary. Just a snake just with thumbs inside. Like,
I can open bins.
no hands, just thumbs. Just rolls over. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up all the time.
Nah, I could do thumbs down too.
I guess it could. Might need to train it to do that.
Yeah, by and large, hard to train snakes. Again, coming back to it. Training a rock is difficult.
Well, it would appear that Ben had success breeding them anyway, right? And
I wonder how one breeds rocks.
that would probably be a very slow-paced business, right? Yeah.
Just keep waiting.
I mean, I don't know. You might have a better chance with rocks than with pandas, but
Pandas are tough. They're challenging.
they're lazy. Pandas are lazy. Only bears only carnivores that developed thumbs so they could eat grass. Like, it's actually true. Pandas have a nub that they use to grasp bamboo.
Good for
so
them.
they can eat it.
That's good.
Because chasing down prey was just
It's a lot of work.
it's a lot of work. So,
Easier to chase down bamboo.
if I had a spirit animal, it'd be a panda.
So as Ben was running this business, we see that Frank appeared to be inspired by the snake theme, became a snake oil salesman, who apparently cheated people out of a lot of money. It was a Ponzi scheme where he sold fake stock certificates.
You're talking about his dad.
Frank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank Renick, his father. What did I say?
You said Frank.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're just clarifying for
Oh,
friends.
Frank is his father, right?
Frank is his father.
Right.
Frank is
Yep.
Ben and Sam's father.
Yes, so I think he made his exit because prison didn't seem super appealing. All right.
Why would prison seem super appealing? I mean, there are some people, I'm sure, who would be like, hey, it's just like homecoming. But unfortunately,
As I understand it, the prison that Elizabeth Holmes will be going to shortly doesn't even have a perimeter fence.
yeah, some of those really low security prisons they're country clubs.
It's like a neighborhood. Like,
Man.
like this is what I'm living for. I think she has to serve at least 9.5 or something, 9.5 years of her 11-year sentence. But yeah, so we see here Frank's gone, and then here's another point where we have all these stories about what happened, and I don't know what happened, but for some reason, Ben inherited the farm, and his brother did not.
Right.
One story made it sound like the brother was getting divorced, but then another story was a little different. I don't know.
I heard it from Sam that he said he was getting a divorce. Listened to a podcast, and unless it wasn't Sam's voice, but they said, Sam says, I'm getting a divorce. I don't need assets in my name right now. So hopefully that was Sam.
Yeah, I mean that would explain it. It's just like I said, there was another story, and I'm like, I don't know, but it I guess it's not really that relevant as long as we know Ben was the owner, and Sam lived there. All right, but I think it does kind of speak to potential motive.
Right.
Now we know he didn't do it, but during the investigation, it would be a confusing thing because the police would be like, wait a second, you had two brothers, and one's dead, and he's the one who inherited.
Well, and plus, like, Lynley did point them in that direction.
That's true.
Yeah.
We get to that.
Yeah. She would say there's been some anger, some jealousy, or some whatever here.
Yeah, she used that to her advantage.
Right.
So that kind of unfortunate, odd non-division of inheritance ended up throwing suspicion on him unfairly, as it turns out.
It's true.
All right. So Ben and Lynley reconnected, married 2014. Lynley had a child from a previous relationship, and she jumped right in with the snakes.
And Ben.
And Ben, right.
Yeah, yeah. She came for the snakes. She stayed for Ben.
So in 2017, Ben landed a dream deal, and this is another area where there's multiple stories about what happened, but my understanding is that he agreed to sell a number of anacondas and pythons, all of them, I believe, for $1.2 million.
Yeah. From what I understand, he had made the deal to sell like his entire ball python line, like his entire stock of the ball pythons to somebody else, who was then going to sell them. A middleman for snakes, very profitable. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy's able to drop 1.2 million.
Mm-hmm. You were looking for work in
if I'd known.
2017, weren't you?
I was.
If
I
only
was
you'd
just in
known.
the wrong place.
Wrong place, right?
I was too near the wrong Montgomery County, apparently. They had, shortly before the events that led to his murder, they'd received their first payment of $200,000.
$200,000, yeah. Yep. And it burned a hole right through their pockets and went into a day spa. Because Lynley had taken some type of technical training earlier in her life to be a massage therapist. It's not clear if she finished it. I don't know what the story is, but that's what she wanted to do.
Right.
She was pretty bad at running a business, and I think that was part of it. But I also think she was spending a lot,
Right.
and being irresponsible.
Yeah,
and she burned through that.
She had a lot of friends working with her too. It seemed probably didn't really help.
people she'd worked with at previous spas. Like she had worked at spas before. Right. So having worked at spas, being a massage therapist, she figured, this is the natural business for me. We'll be skyrocketing to success. So any bit of profit that came in just fell out. And the problem was, it wasn't the profit that was coming in that she was spending. It was any money that came in.
Right.
So she wasn't paying the bills.
Yeah. So there was these messages in between Ben and Lynley where he was like losing it over the debt that they were carrying and how they were doing nothing. She was doing nothing to be responsible in any way.
One of those messages like, no more lies, no more spending money, no more telling people you're going to pay them and then not paying them.
I wonder,
or telling people you're not paying people and telling them you'll pay them later.
Right. I wonder. I was wondering why there were more messages, why there were so many messages, as opposed to just presumably them talking to each other. And I wonder if Ben was trying to get something in writing. Like maybe he saw that things weren't working out for them. This might not end very well. Like they might separate or something. And I wonder if he was trying to keep some documentation there for himself, for her, for, I don't know, for anything like that. And if that's the case, it worked because they were able to find a lot of evidence of different things, a lot of kind of leads, the investigators were, because of those messages. So potentially a smart move if that's what it was, or maybe that's just how they did things. I don't know.
I will say, psychologically speaking, these things, it's so much easier to get mad at.
It's true.
And if you're typing out a message, it's easier to just put it on and put the cards on the table, because there's a separation that you might think, I don't want to say something in the heat of the moment that I'm going to regret.
That's true.
But the fact that I've typed it out in a message means I've been able to look at it, I've been able to read over it, and so it's easier for me to send it.
Sure.
Doesn't always stop it from being hurtful things that are sent, but that I think is what lowers the inhibition on doing that. Right. So I think that's where we can see a lot of arguments escalate up past where they might otherwise, if it was a face-to-face conversation, or even an over-the-phone conversation.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, evidently, Lynley was having other conversations around the same time.
Oh, many other conversations.
Yeah. And Ben knew about the money part, but he didn't know about the affair part right away. He started to suspect something. Maybe he did know toward the end, but not in time. Not in time to act.
Right.
In May of 2017, Lynley talked to a day spa employee, Ashley Shaw, who should consider herself one of the luckiest people on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Because she 100% deserves to be in prison.
She won the lottery.
Unbelievable. Right. In a case this style, we'll talk about, in a case this style, there was no reason for her not to go to prison. I don't know what the state was thinking, but either way, Ashley conspired with Lynley and supplied her with 15 Percocet pills. Now, certainly, that can hurt somebody. In theory, that could kill somebody. That's not usually what I would think of first, because I've seen people take whole bottles of Percocet. Now, they had built up to that.
They built up to tolerance.
But, it's not... It's certainly dangerous, but it wouldn't, again, be the first thing I would think of, like 15 Percocets.
That also depends on what was the size of the Percocets?
Right.
Like how many milligrams? What are we talking here? Are we talking like 2 milligrams? Or are we talking like 15?
Yeah, one of the dangerous parts with the Percocet is the acetaminophen. But, yeah, I just don't think they really had any idea what they were doing.
Right.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, that was not a great homicidal plan. So they put the drug in a protein shake, and Ben drank it. That doesn't really speak well of the taste of the protein shake.
Yeah, oh no, protein shakes taste awful. Period.
They must.
Not all.
Have you never had a protein shake?
No.
Oh my goodness.
I wonder if Lynley convinced him, you have to take this because it's for your health, or it's no matter how it tastes. I think it's also important to note here the reason why they were doing this. As far as I know, as far as I could tell from the multiple stories, it seems that Lynley had convinced Ashley that Ben was harming her, was harming.
He was the
Lynley.
bad guy.
He was the bad guy. He was, hurting her in the relationship, physically hurting her, and the plan was to kill him, so that he could no longer do that. As far as I could tell, that seems to be the motive with this. Ashley seemed to have bought into it, and maybe there's a lot of fear there. He's going to hurt me. He's going to kill me. He's going to do this. We have to take care of him because I don't want anything bad to happen to me. And really spun this story about how bad Ben was, which largely unfounded. There was an instance that he acknowledged, as far as I could tell, that did something wrong. But by and large, it seems like that was not the case.
And that particular incident, Lynley seems like she blew up and kept holding on to.
Right.
Even though he apologized, and she seemed to forgive him for it, she just kept holding on to it and kept moving forward and kept harboring. And that was one of the argumentative things. Like when he came at her with no more not paying people and then telling him to pay later, and she brought that back up and like threw it back in his face. As part of that conversation, so she was holding on to that, and she was telling other people, and I'm sure she was, to some extent, I'm sure she was embellishing and adding on more things that never actually happened.
Yeah,
they had a rocky relationship. She probably built that on a foundation of truth, and then exaggerated it way beyond what it was. But she also forgot her contribution. So she was the
I'm
angel.
not sure she forgot. She never acknowledged in the first place what her contribution was.
It was careless for her not to mention that. So this takes us to June 8, 2017. At 6:36 p.m., Lynley calls 911 and said that she found Ben in the barn, face down in a pool of blood. And they have the body cam of these police. And, police traditionally, that line of work attracts high sensation seekers, the kind of people who go into the military, and people who would be skydivers, firefighters, people that are looking for action. That's the reality of most police is they want to work a night shift. They want to be in someplace dangerous. In the movies, they make it seem like they're all trying to get to retirement, but they chose that line of work to some extent for action.
Sure.
But they didn't like the action they got that day.
Problem is, there wasn't really any action to have.
They thought there was.
They thought there was. Right. They thought there was. They thought, oh, this guy's dead. He got to be a snake, and they're running around with shotguns out. Any snake messes up and raises its head at me, I'm gonna blast it. And like the coroner, and I love the coroner's assistant who was on the 48 Hours. She's just like, I've been around snakes my entire life. I know how to handle them. And these big guys were running around with shotguns. Like none of these snakes are going to do anything to you. Like they're just sitting there. Like she knew they were pet rocks. Like they're just a whole bunch of rocks in things, and you guys are running around like it's the worst thing in the world. Like,
I think of the movie Snakes on a Plane, where they're just like coming at you from all angles.
I've had it with these Monday to Friday snakes.
Monday to Friday. Like it's just they're coming at you and they're aggressive and they're gonna eat you. And
it actually reminded me of my favorite movie, Aliens. Like I pictured the cops with that thing, the tracker. They're everywhere. They're in the walls.
Oh, the motion sensor. Boop, boop.
Some cop runs out to get a flamethrower from the.
I've had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane. Of course, Sam Jackson, famous for using certain types of language that we have refused to use on a classy show like this.
Classy.
For the TV version, for the safe for kids version, he redubbed the line to these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane. And that is the best thing I've ever heard, and I love it. It's almost as good as Yippee-Ki-Yay,
Right.
Mr. Falcon.
Right.
From Die Hard 2.
And the Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode where they switched it around every time. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, these officers were definitely were scared
Mm-hmm.
of snakes. Snake comes out with an axe. Who knows?
They're
Who knows what's
highly
going on?
charged. I mean, those snakes, they could have been out chopping wood.
Just come in and be like,
they would
"What are you doing in here?"
Coming in, holding a hoe over the back, and all of a sudden, there's a shotgun in their face.
Out there chopping wheat or something, they come in with their sickle.
They just got the sickle.
Right.
And the police are like, "Hands up!" And they're like, "I don't even know what you're talking about here."
What?
I only have thumbs.
I got thumbs. I can give you a thumbs up. No. Yeah, they're just carrying their sickles.
Those police really had no backbone.
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm.
They unlike the snake,
Right.
they were spineless.
They were spineless. Right.
Yeah. So when they got to Ben's body, they noticed think about their frame of mind. They were really scared that a snake did this, and they get to his body and they see, I think it was 40 caliber S&W cartridge cases spread on the floor next to his body, and one was on one of the tubs.
Right.
And that snake had a gun.
Right? And that's something like the first thing they're like, "Oh no."
Oh no, the snake figured out how to fire a gun.
Our fears came true. They have guns now.
Now they're venomous and armed. This is a funny thing, by the way. The 48 Hours, the title of their episode is The Poisonous Wife. Right. And then they refer to all these snakes, and snakes would be venomous. Like the difference between poisonous and venomous is on where it comes from. If I eat it and I die, it's poisonous. If,
They're injecting it, though, right?
that they're injecting it. If it bites me and I die, it's venomous. If I bite it and I die, it's poisonous. If it bites itself and I die, I don't know what that is. Voodoo? I think it's voodoo at that point.
But Lynley did try to poison him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe she should have bit him.
Maybe she should have.
Maybe she should come out with a snake in each hand.
A snake in each hand. Each snake has a gun on its thumb.
A Wild West thing where it's just spinning it around.
So what impresses me here with this the circumstances is Ben was shot 8 times, and this was a Glock, full-size Glock, semi-automatic, in 40 caliber S&W. Pretty good kick for somebody not used to a pistol, definitely more than a 9mm. And typically murderers like this, would be surprised and maybe get off 2 shots. 8 shots. She was really, really angry.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm assuming that she was the shooter. We don't actually know if she was or not, but it looks like she was.
It's likely.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I think it was either before or after she called 911, she called Sam.
It was before.
It was before.
Called
Yeah, she
Sam
called
first,
Sam
then
before,
911.
and then she called 911. He got down there, and I think he was the reason why the officers were all charged up about the snake.
I think he
because
said that.
Yeah.
he hadn't gone in to see anything because he didn't want to see his brother's body.
Sure.
So he said, Lynley says he's dead. Could have been one of the snakes because he assumed that was what happened. So he told the cops that, and they all went in assuming that there was a snake murderer.
I think he also referenced a snake that weighed multiple hundreds of pounds.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I checked that out, and it turns out they do get that heavy.
Oh yeah.
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 Some of those bigger anacondas and pythons, they a couple 100 pounds, 300-400 pounds,
Yeah.
and like 14, 15 feet long. They're big.
Yeah. Still, it's just still funny humorous that you have all these police officers with 12-gauge shotguns.
Oh yeah, they were running around like that. And the coroner walks in, takes a look at the body, goes, "It wasn't a snake." Like he 2 seconds realized it was gunshots, and he's like, "These guys don't have thumbs. They ain't pulling them, much less fingers to be able to pull triggers." I mean,
I think the police thought they would go in, they'd see like one of the officers like dangling from the ceiling. Help! Snake's got me.
they
Being
were
sucked down
imagining
into the snake's mouth.
they were imagining anaconda or something like that. It's like the movie Anaconda.
Right.
It was like a giant, like a really giant. Didn't King Kong have a snake? Was it a big snake featured in one of the King Kong movies? Or
I think one of the ones from like the 70s.
like a gigantic snake.
Gigantic snake. I mean, the original Kong was fighting dinosaurs, like on Skull Island.
Yeah. They're
Really terrible clay dinosaurs.
well, not the time. At the time, it was high tech. But yeah, by today's standards, all those movies are pretty primitive. I can't remember the most recent King Kong.
That Godzilla versus Kong.
Yes, that wasn't good. That wasn't good.
It was not. No, I love the justification was, the King Kong was a baby. He had to grow up. And when he grew up, he was the size of Godzilla. I'm like, no. Sorry. Godzilla climbed up the Empire State Building. Or King Kong climbed up the Empire State Building. Godzilla ate the top of it, not on his tiptoes.
I don't know if you remember the old Godzilla. It was a series, right? Where it was like a guy in a costume, or like a miniature Tokyo or whatever. It was always like something like Tokyo. It was like, he tried to go slow, like for the scale effect.
Right.
The guy would be like, it's a guy in a suit, right? Like
That was the great thing about Godzilla. You know, it was a guy in a suit, but he's still messing around with a giant moth and a dragon with 3 heads. Two of them became mechanical at one point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or the mechanical version of himself, Mecha Godzilla.
That's going back some years. Good stuff. Good shows. I liked Ultraman too.
Ultraman was great.
Yeah. Always made me nervous with that light. That gimmick always worked on a kid, right? You see with the lights. Oh no, it's blinking faster. That was bad, right? When it blinked faster. No.
Well, he could only be Ultraman for a certain amount of time,
Right.
And then he had to revert.
And he had it on his chest, so all the enemies would know.
Yeah. We just gotta hold on for another couple of seconds.
Can't we hide that? Can I have this wristwatch? Can I have a watch with this? Like, does it have to be?
So
Can it be so noticeable?
Can I put that on my back underneath the cape so that nobody can see it? No, apparently not.
All right.
The first big kaiju movies.
So the possible suspects in the very beginning, you basically had Lynley and Sam. And the police were able to rule out Sam pretty quickly.
Right.
And they really focused on Lynley at that point.
Yeah. But they initially, within the first few hours, they asked her for a gunshot residue for, let me say, what the officer said, a shotgun, no, not shotgun, gunshot residue test.
He was still concerned about the snakes, right?
Yeah.
He was still picturing that snake pulling out a knife. Drop the knife.
They're probably trying to brainstorm. So, if the snake pulled the trigger, where would the gunshot residue be?
On the tail.
On the tail, easily.
Like,
right.
Well, it's got to be on the tail because
Test them all.
Everything past the jaws is tail, right? So it's got to be somewhere on the tail.
Somebody had to be thinking, we got to test all these snakes. We got to see who pulled the trigger.
One of those cops was thinking, I'm just going to shoot a snake and drop a gun next to it.
Okay,
He
solved.
has a 38 special in his back pocket for just that occasion.
And if I have fun with that, I've got a drop knife too. Get a second one.
So I think what the police realized was the affairs really made Lynley look suspicious. Also, within 12 hours, she called the insurance company and tried to collect on a $1 million policy.
Right.
And 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks later, she was making preparations to sell the farm. So Ben bought the farm, and Lynley was going to sell the farm.
Right. Because when they had inherited it.
He inherited the farm.
He inherited
Then he bought the farm.
Bought the farm.
Right.
Then she sold the farm.
Bought the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or tried to.
She eventually did. There was a
she-
legal battle with the brother for a while, but he lost.
Yeah.
And she sold it for $700,000.
And she just vanished.
I mean, obviously, she did a lot of heartless things throughout all of this, but to add insult to that injury, really, and take it from the family, just really showed the depth of how heartless she was, how much she didn't care about anyone but herself, to not only potentially murder someone, or at least be a large part of it, but also take everything they have, go through this lengthy court battle to try to tell them that it was somebody else and it wasn't her. And I mean, the kind of mindset of somebody like Lynley.
Especially if the real reason was a marriage and concern about asset division, then the spirit of Frank, I guess you could say, would have wanted a fair division of the property. But she took all that money and she moved to Columbia and found a new lover, a guy named Brandon Blackwell.
Oh, well, she'd found the Brandon before before Ben died.
Right.
So,
Well, she was with him now full time. They had a child together.
Yeah,
even.
they did.
Yeah.
They had a child after Ben died, but they started seeing each other. They found each other on a dating website prior to Ben's demise.
We should also bring in Michael Humphrey,
Right.
who was also a player in this.
And one of Lynley's ex-boyfriends.
Right. Another lover in this, former lover.
Yeah, so at this point, the police don't necessarily know this, but Michael Humphrey was there when the killing occurred.
Right.
And so was, of course, Lynley. Brandon had legal problems, but they were unrelated to murder. His problems seemed like they were mostly related to Lynley.
That's true.
And his legal problems happened later, like well after. And in fact, he wasn't really involved. He was involved with Lynley, but wasn't really around at that time. It was after she moved that they stayed together.
Yeah, so in January 2020, Brandon was an inmate at a local jail. And he didn't find the accommodations to be pleasing.
No,
Oddly enough.
Oddly, county jail accommodations not that great. Reason he's there is because of trumped up charges from Lynley of stalking.
Yeah. She had a order of protection against him or something, I think, right? He broke that.
He allegedly violated that.
Yeah.
Right. He denied. Like, he told the police he didn't do any of it. But, I think he kind of realized that he needed to give them something if he had any chance of getting out. And that's what he was looking to do.
I also can understand. I really don't think he did much with that, because I can understand the mentality of, I didn't do anything, but Lynley told me all this stuff, and she's the one who put me here, so I'm telling.
Wait a
I'm
minute.
not keeping that to myself.
So Lynley needed somebody to murder somebody else? Like a hitman?
Yeah, she'd been looking for somebody to take out Ben, because the whole Percocet and the milkshake didn't work out for her.
Didn't work out.
Because, he fell asleep for a while and then wasn't in pain. And
We graduated grad school in 2017.
we did. We did.
I was looking for work too.
That was in May. That was actually almost exactly 5 years ago.
You could have got the call.
I could have. If I had really gotten my name out there, Lynley might have thought of me.
She might have.
Next time.
But too close to Montgomery County, Pennsylvania.
It's true.
Again.
It's true.
Yeah. You
Geography.
didn't work on networking enough in the hitman underworld while you were in grad school. You could have done some moonlighting with the mob and gotten some of those connections, but no.
That's the way I made it through grad school. The
You
mob.
decided to spend your time studying.
listening to other people. Ugh.
Go into your internships.
Yeah, Mr. Big Chance.
Yeah, next time.
So Brandon essentially told the police that Lynley conspired with Ashley Shaw, who we mentioned before, the spa employee. And, the police didn't know, and Michael Humphrey, right? But the police didn't know. So they went and talked to Ashley, and she told them what happened. So I don't know if that helped Brandon or not, probably. He probably got some type of deal.
Well, all of the charges were dropped.
They're dropped? Well, there you go. Yeah.
And for Ashley, too, I think the only way she would talk to them was
Ashley
if,
made a deal.
yeah, it was if she got full immunity from anything. To a certain extent.
That was her lottery winnings.
Well, yeah. But to a certain extent, Lynley spun this story for Ashley. He's Ben's a bad guy. We need to kill him. And at some point, she had to realize, I'm playing a bigger role in this than maybe I even expected to, or maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But I guess at some point she's just in it, and I guess this is what we're doing. She's my friend. She's probably been telling a bunch of stories about things. You imagine, though, just being in that situation where his friend is telling me this has to happen, and I'm so into it. Even Michael Humphrey, it was the same kind of thing. Lynley said, hey, I need you to just come with me. I'm just going to get my stuff. I'm going to talk to Ben, and I'm going to get out of there. But I just need you to help me make sure I'm protected, right? He's not going to do anything to me. And quickly turned into, by the way, I have a gun. And at that point, Michael's involved. And yeah, the way he tells it anyway is, I didn't expect any of that, but I was there, and I was part of it. And Lynley would say that Michael was the one who shot Ben. Of course, Michael would say that Lynley was the one who shot Ben. We don't know for sure, but probably Lynley.
Well, the fact that Brandon said that Lynley told him that she shot Ben, and then Ashley said that Lynley and Michael both told her that Lynley shot Ben.
Yeah, pretty convincing.
Leads me to believe that Lynley shot Ben.
Mm-hmm.
It's Lynley's own words that really hurt her.
Yeah, but her testimony is that she didn't know that Michael had a gun until they were going in, and he turned around and had the gun and told her to stay outside. So she stayed outside and then heard gunshots. Mm-hmm. She never touched the gun. She wasn't around the gun. She had nothing to do with it. Didn't know it was going to happen until they were in the midst of it.
Yeah. Was it, I forget now, was it Brandon or Michael that ultimately led police to the gun? To where
Michael.
it was headed? Was it Michael?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he had stored it in a relative's attic.
Or something. Yeah, something.
Yeah, that was in exchange for bringing the charges down from first degree to second degree murder.
Right. With the possibility of parole, I think.
With the possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a life sentence, but with the possibility of parole. Because if it had been first degree, it would have been without.
Mm-hmm.
And his testimony against Lynley in the trial.
Right. Now the awful part here, among many other things, of course, Lynley was found guilty, but of second-degree murder and sentenced to only 16 years. As I guess not all the jury was convinced of what had actually happened.
Technically, it was 13 years for the manslaughter and 3 for the firearms charge.
Yeah. Well, what happened was Michael went to trial first, right, and with Ashley having immunity, was convicted of first degree and life with no parole.
She got the immunity idol. Right.
Yeah, I tell you, I mean, I
survivor.
I agree that the way that I agree that there needed to be some deal because they needed her, but I didn't see it as a no prison deal. I didn't see that as no prison.
Yeah,
going and getting medications to kill someone, that's pretty involved, right? That's conspiracy. Right.
But ultimately, Lynley wasn't even charged with anything for that particular act.
No.
I think so, and neither was Ashley. There were no charges for that, so that you can't really even get her on conspiracy at that point.
Complete immunity.
It was the after the fact stuff.
Complete immunity is for like accessory before, accessory after. Somebody's involved. That's like 5 or 10 years in prison, not immunity. That's how I view it. But But maybe they really felt like they didn't have a case.
I don't think they really had a case against Ashley for much of anything because there wasn't any. She didn't know anything beforehand, as far as she said.
Well, she also sent text messages from Lynley's phone. And to me, that puts you right in the conspiracy.
Right.
Because she was trying to build the alibi for Lynley as Lynley was shooting somebody to death.
Right.
So I agree, not a life in prison. It wouldn't be that hard, but I didn't see it as a total walk.
Her biggest thing was, giving Ashley a shower afterwards. Went back after the shooting. They went back to, and that's the thing that really convinces me that Lynley was the shooter. If she was outside, why would she need a shower afterwards? And like two different people who were there at the time said that she had a shower when they got back to the spa, and somebody else to help wash her off. So I mean that means like there was definitely some stuff going on to make sure that she was clean.
Yeah.
Right.
When the police,
If you figure 8 shots.
Yeah.
at close range.
And some of them went through and hit the floor. So he was, obviously 8 shots. He was down probably within 1 or 2. And she shot him on the floor. And there's going to be a lot of spatter for that. Like, she would have been covered pretty well. And it's hard, blood's hard to get off. Right? So, and she probably knew that. But yeah, but either way, Ashley does get a walk, but Michael doesn't. He's convicted of first degree, and then he's like, so he denied involvement the whole time. And then after getting convicted, he's like, you know what? I did it.
If we can reduce
And they were
this
like, what? The state was like, what?
What? We didn't know that.
And he's like, how about if I testify against Lynley and give you a little extra juice going into that final leg? And they dropped his conviction to second degree and gave him that chance of parole. Lynley's argument at trial, that was pretty much ready-made, right? Michael did it. He was already convicted of first degree, no matter what his deal was. Clearly, the jury thought that he premeditated the murder. So why not just him? Why involve me? It's actually a pretty good argument, considering. But then Ashley comes in and messes up Lynley's plan.
Well, they also tried to invalidate Ashley's thing with police corruption, right? Because one of the police officers said, "You're either on Team Missouri or Team Lynley, and Team Lynley's going to jail," right? And then right after that, Ashley starts spilling the beans. So like they were going with coercion, but that argument apparently didn't hold water for the jury.
I wonder though. I mean, they convicted her, right? They convicted her. But they made an extremely unusual move you referenced afterwards. So in Missouri, one of the few states where the jury decides the sentence in a criminal trial. All right. And this would have been pretty much life or a very long sentence. And they went with 13 years for the murder and 3 years for armed criminal action. So there's different stories about when Lynley can get out. My best guess is 2038 at the age of 49. That's for walking up behind a man and shooting him 8 times. So I'm wondering if the jury was splitting the difference on some doubt with Ashley.
Right.
Like, because she was not a good witness. Yeah. She was not a good witness. And I'm more like, well, we don't feel good about Ben being killed and all, but we want to find her guilty. How will we go 16 years? I don't know.
And the judge even said that he wished that he was not happy with that. he was like, I wish I could change this, but I don't have the leeway to make this change. The jury's spoken on this, but you're terrible. Like, you're going to get out in your 40s, and 40s you can still do stuff. It's a pretty good time.
It's a pretty good time for him.
You are lucky.
Yeah. I love his quote here. I just hope you don't kill again.
Yeah. I just hope you don't kill him again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if she will or not, but it's a very peculiar situation. Like, what she did is highly out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And the conspiracy and the whole thing. She involved multiple people. It's pretty scary. Pretty scary potential. I saw it as life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it as life. I don't know if second degree would allow them. in Missouri, I'm not sure if that would allow them life with no parole. I mean, Michael Humphrey ended up getting life with parole with second degree. So I imagine that's in the realm of possibility.
Right, sure.
I would have been happy with life with parole, but 16 years?
Yeah.
Like I said, technically 13 for the murder and 3. And the judge did have leeway to either make it consecutive or concurrent, and he chose consecutive to make it as long as possible.
Yeah.
Because he could have said, well, we'll let the 3 years run concurrently with the 13 years, and you'll be out in 13, or 10 with good behavior or something like that. But he was like, no, they're going to be consecutive. You're going to have 13 and then 3.
Can't imagine being out 49. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, she'll have the conviction.
Right.
But I don't know. That seems incredibly, it's an incredibly strange sentence. I don't know what the jury was thinking. They've never talked about it.
I don't know either.
You know, we see weird things that happen with court hearings, right? Weird outcomes, people that get too much time, not enough time, things like that. But we definitely see a connection here of people that are manipulative, people that are able to spin stories and tell people what they want them to hear and get them to convince them of different things. And I would imagine that when she gets out, age 49 or whenever, that she's probably already made up some kind of story for somebody that will, believe that she never actually did anything.
Right.
She was a victim.
Michael Humphrey was the shooter,
Right.
and
she was a victim of of being hurt by her husband and whatever else. Seems to be the way that she does things. It wasn't necessarily the kind of person that I was hearing about when I first read about this story, but then of course you realize, she was trying to convince even Ben that he was, so bad and was hurting her and so forth. I imagine she's going to continue that as she's in jail, as she's in prison, as she gets out of it.
it struck me that she filed an appeal and then withdrew it.
Yeah, drop the appeal.
And what I don't know with Missouri is if she had won an appeal, like won a new trial. I mean, I'm assuming that if she's found guilty, she's looking at the full freight again. So I'm wondering if that wasn't the logic of withdrawing it. Is, you know what, I'm just gonna stand at 16.
What, you mean I could do life? I'm just gonna stay with the 16. That's a little bit better.
Because if her appeal was successful, they're not like, oh, you know what, you're right, go home. Like it's a new trial, right? Because the state was going to try her again if it was overturned on some technicality or for whatever reason. So, I think the logic there might have been she was like, I'll take the 16. It was a gift.
I don't see any areas really where they have Brady violations or real technical reason to overturn it either.
Well, I think the Ashley Shaw, like she was a terrible witness, recruited under terrible circumstances. She admitted to being involved. Michael Humphrey was convicted. People would be more like, did a mistake happen in the trial? But I mean, there was room to say this wasn't the best conviction. Right.
But the defense attorneys brought up those things in trial, so there's no real way for them to come back and say, well, they didn't bring up their ineffective counsel. They didn't bring up the fact that Ashley was coerced into that. No, that was part of their defense. So there's no, like, even though she was a terrible witness, they already played that card.
Right.
And the jury still said, terrible witness or not, we believe her. So there's nothing really there to go on for an appeal to get in there. Michael Humphrey, they also came out the gate with, he's been convicted of first degree on this.
And he wasn't a great witness either.
But the jury still looked at that and said, there's enough there to believe. And so they convicted.
Yeah, I mean, really, everybody appeals long sentences, and pretty much every sentence. But with that gift that she was handed by the jury, I think it makes sense just to
leave it well enough alone.
Yep, just walk away.
Leave it alone. Walk away.
Yep. That was incredible.
Well, sit there for 16 years and then walk away. Like, you'll have to sit there for 16 years first, but then you can walk away.
She'll still qualify for whatever Missouri has for a good time. In most states, it's you can get about 15% off. I don't know about Missouri, but she'll still get a discount if she doesn't
This is as long as she doesn't kill somebody while she's in prison.
Yeah,
That's true.
it's possible. It doesn't happen too often in women's prisons. But there's other things she can do. Like I've seen female prisoners who smuggled drugs, didn't follow orders, like repeatedly. So there's ways to.
I think that's more likely to be where Lynley ends up falling on her own, falling down is the not following orders and not following the rules and regulations. Because she definitely seemed, for everything, even just watching her testimony, she seems like a kind of person who just like pushes the limits.
Yeah. Absolutely horrible. Horrible outcome. No justice in that situation. And of course the farm gone.
Right.
I'm assuming the $700,000 went to legal fees. I don't know, but I doubt it's around.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting case. And really an unusual circumstance with the whole snake situation.
Right. Absolutely.
I think that's the thing that draws people into this case.
Designer snakes.
It's the designer
Designer
snakes. It is. That's what makes it unusual. If it wasn't for the snakes, if he'd had just little tchotchkes that he made in his backyard, even as successful as that was, I don't think anybody would have. Right? Like if he was a blacksmith making knives, like people would just be like, okay, whatever. But no, it's the snakes. Like people are drawn to this story because of the snakes, and they stay for the intrigue, and they really stick around for the spa.
Day spa, that pushes them over the edge.
They stick around for the day spa.
So any final thoughts about this particular case?
I hadn't thought about it until like 5 minutes ago. What people
I
may
say that all the time.
what people may do with the snakes that they ordered from Ben. And it just hit me that there's people that are having boots, snakeskin boots made, purses, jackets, I don't know. And I never really thought about that before. Oh, they're keeping them as pets. That's what I was thinking. And then it dawned on me, that's pretty naive. I really don't think many of them are keeping them as pets. Probably some, for sure. But I would imagine snakeskin accessories, probably a pretty big part of Ben's business. And that made it much more unfortunate in my mind once I realized that. Like there was a murder and that's very terrible. And then it hit me, people are probably buying these snakes just to kill them, to use their skin, their scales for something. That made it worse for me.
Using their snake thumbs for products.
I don't know why somebody would buy a designer snake. I would think, not knowing anything about this, that they would want to keep them as pets because they're probably like snake lovers. But I don't know. I mean, it depends. I guess it depends on the order, right? If somebody ordered like a pattern, like give me so many white snakes,
right,
black snakes, yellow snakes, whatever, like
right,
a few hundred of each, then you think, all right, they're doing something.
Yeah.
But if you buy one special snake,
sure, yeah,
maybe it is to keep.
Yeah, when you custom order one Renick Ghost, I need it to be big. It's because you want it as a display piece. But that's actually one of the interesting things. One of the early leads that they looked into and very quickly dismissed was that there are a lot of very unscrupulous people in the snake dealing. This is one of the reasons I didn't actually get into the snake dealing business, because there's a lot of unscrupulous people in there. Some of the people who want these snakes, especially for display, the bigger, the badder. It's not because they love the snakes. It's because they love what the snake does to the people who come and stand in front of them. Because they see the big snake behind them and it's a little fear factor thing. It's an intimidation thing. And the kind of person who wants to have that intimidation sitting behind them, usually not a very nice person. So there was a thought that whoever came and killed Ben was involved in that side of the seedier side of snake sales.
Right.
But they quickly dismissed that idea.
I don't know. Every counseling office I see has a giant snake behind the counselor.
Well, I mean, I know we do.
I
in
thought
every one of our
around
counselors'
their neck
offices.
was they were giving a session.
Right. That's
No, every single one of our counselors at my facility, they have the giant
they
snake.
have their snake behind.
Yeah. They get to pick what color snake when they come in. We used to order them from a guy in Missouri.
Oh. That was their new hire gift. You get to pick your snake?
You pick your snake. You don't get to take it home. You got to leave it there. But
Do you remember the original Clash of the Titans, 1985,
Oh, yeah.
around
The
thereabouts?
Harryhausen. Yeah.
Yeah, very good movie. A lot of stop action.
The stop action skeletons.
Yes,
Yeah.
very good. I also like the owl, and of course,
I actually have that sound on my phone.
yeah,
That's my notification sound. And it freaks everybody out when it
from
when
the
it- when I hear
1980s
it. Oh,
movie,
yeah.
and Medusa, right? And the scene. Spoiler alert for 40-year-old.
Anybody who hasn't seen a 40-year-old movie. Jeff.
But,
You know I haven't seen it. I saw the new one. I didn't know there was an original one.
yeah, it was actually a pretty scary, like the way they shot that scene. It was a pretty scary scene, especially at the age I was and when it was when it was out. But yeah, so her head was covered in snakes, which must make hair care very complex.
You have a lot of mice. A lot of mice.
It to feed the hair.
Don't go with shampoo. No shampoo.
So staring at Medusa was the problem. That was a problem.
It turned into the sand or something. Is that what it
No,
was?
stone.
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 And the legend, Greek mythology actually was that her gaze, that she could turn men who looked upon her
Into
to
stone.
stone.
But so in the original, I forgot what they did in the new one, but the original, he used a shield to reflect. And the way they shot that really was like, you felt like you were there with him as she was trying to sneak up. She was pretty scary. Yeah. So he was victorious though. So,
Yeah. Perseus.
yeah. And then the snake, then she ended up killing, well, her head ended up killing the main villain, the Kraken. Yeah. So yeah, just totally spoiled the entire movie. If anybody knows, yeah. Release the Kraken. That's where that came from.
There you go.
One of the greatest lines in movie history. Release the Kraken.
That movie just came together. That was a great movie. Yeah, it really was. Yeah. So, all right. So anyway, final thoughts.
Yeah, that was my final
That was
thought.
your
Finally,
Yeah.
just the
It-
poor snakes.
It made it much worse for me once I realized that.
Oh, final thoughts. The prosecutors and police pointed to things like the money as being this big motive, and I think they're right, but not that she wanted the money. I think the $1.2 million was going to come into Ben's bank account, and that was going to give Ben control, more control, and he was getting controlling about the business that was supposed to be hers. So she was getting really territorial over the spa. That's what she wanted. That's what she couldn't stand him trying to take that from her. And that's what it seems like. All those text messages back and forth, like he's taking control of her business because she wasn't doing it well and it was failing. He was going to step in and take control and try and help it become more successful. But she didn't want him stepping in, and he was taking it. And getting that money from the snake sales was going to put him like permanently in the driver's seat, and she couldn't have that. I really think that is the bigger motive for why she did that, and why, because it speaks to the rage that was in there, shooting him 8 times. She shot him in the back of the head. That shot alone probably would have killed him. Yeah. A couple more in him to from a distance, but no, she emptied the clip into him. She emptied the magazine.
Well, I don't know. I think the magazine I forget what model Glock that was. Might have had a few more in there. But still,
it probably had a
a
capacity to hold more, but it probably wasn't loaded more. It seems like she would have just like pulled the trigger until she was done because she was just angry.
Well, they're difficult to load, especially when you get to the last few cartridges. So maybe she just stuffed as many in there as she could, 7, and had one in the tube, and then unloaded it. But yeah, I mean, that's, those guns are also very loud, especially in a closed space. It's a very dramatic, bold move. Not subtle. But otherwise, she had taken precautions to escape responsibility. But there, she really she wanted to make sure he was dead.
The other thing that really convinces me that she was the shooter is the fact that he was shot in the back. If Michael had come through that door, there's no way Ben would have turned his back on him.
Well, alone, especially.
Especially alone.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been. It would have been. He wouldn't have turned his back and walking away. Even if Lynley had come in with him, I don't think that he would have turned his back like that. I think he would have been like, well, "Come on in." and ushered them in so that he was
Right.
there. Because that comes with a threatening situation. Like, my wife is coming in with this strange guy that I don't know, or if he did know him as an ex-boyfriend, it's like, why is my wife here with an ex-boyfriend?
Right. Right.
This is strange. The reasonable thing to do is going to be on alert at that point. But he was walking away from her, or walking away from the door, and got shot in the back, died where he fell. That indicates that he wasn't afraid. He wasn't on guard. He wasn't on edge. So she came through the door by herself.
Yeah, I think she probably did shoot, but it was his gun. And what's strange about it is he kept it. There was no upside to keeping that gun.
Right.
No, plenty of places he could have thrown it too.
And Missouri's a big state. I mean, you could have got rid of that, so no one would have found it. He could have disassembled it. He had all kinds of time.
Right.
But he hid it in an attic of someone he knew, somebody he was related to or something.
Well, to be fair on that one, he might have hid it there initially because that's a place where he could put it until he could come back and get it later, and then just never got around to coming back for it.
Yeah.
Because Michael was in and out of jail. Like, the day of that murder, he had just gotten out of jail from drug charges.
Yeah.
Am I remembering correctly that when Michael was on his way back from the farm, he didn't realize the gun was there, or at some point he looked over and realized the gun was there after the fact or something? Am I remembering that correctly? Maybe that he was caught off guard and mine was already kind of frazzled and didn't know what to do, and just let me think of the first place. Let me hide it the first place I think of. Am I remembering that correctly?
I don't recall.
Yeah, maybe I can only imagine his mindset at that point after what he just experienced very unexpectedly. The Lynley shooting Ben, very frazzled. Maybe that was just the first place he thought of, and I don't know.
Because I fully believe the version of events where she asked him to do it. He agreed, brought the gun, and then when he got there, it was like, I can't do this. So she took the gun and walked in by herself. I fully believe that version of events because
his better strategy would have been to say, I can't do this, and I'm going with the gun.
Right.
I guess it's odd to me to say, I don't have the fortitude to murder somebody, but you want to try it? Just seems...
Your turn.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably what happened, but I wonder if it speaks to her determination. Like, she was like, no, give me the gun.
It's like I look at it like the movie playing out in my mind, right? If it were made a movie, like he's sitting there leaning up against the car, he's got the gun, he's like, I can't do it, and I don't think I can do it, and he's just holding it loosely, and she just goes, calls him a name and grabs it out of his hand, and he's like, what? Like, no chance for him to walk away before she's got the gun in her hand. And the fact that he brought the gun and knew it was going to happen and didn't tell anybody about it, that's what makes him guilty in this situation. He was absolutely involved in it 100%.
I wonder how often they used snake puns. Like, use spineless, slithering, slimy something. They had to have used them.
I don't think he had the fangs for it. I really don't.
It was a very poisonous relationship.
I think he was just rattled. Right? He just made an asp of himself.
I think in these cases, it's never surprising when somebody having an affair kills someone. Most affairs don't result in death, but you can understand how she was having multiple affairs. That alone could have been it.
Yeah.
What gets me about this case is the other people.
Right.
Like, so she goes and tells somebody, oh, he's a bad guy. Will you help me kill him? Sure. I'm not doing anything today. Yeah, if you
I'll move some stuff around.
Hold on. How do you want to kill him? Poison. All right, I got a guy.
I got Percocets.
I can get some Percocets. I know a guy. We can load him up in perks.
What do you think? Like a protein shake or
protein shake? Yeah, that'd probably work. He would mask the taste of it.
He would love that.
Up the perks. He'd love it. He's always doing the protein shake thing.
Yeah, it's just like it was her idea. Lynley, it's her idea, and these other people, they don't have that history of being angry at Ben. They don't have. It wasn't their idea to commit a murder, and yet they're like, yeah, sure, murder, yeah, life in prison, no problem. I mean, I'm not really doing anything the rest of my life, so I guess that's okay.
I didn't have a future anyway, so what's it matter?
Well, that speaks to the manipulation aspect from Lynley. Like, she had the ability to manipulate those people And like, I'm pretty sure that she chose Michael because he'd been criminal, and because she knew how to speak that manipulative language to him specifically, and she got him moved into position. But then he couldn't. He wanted to back out. So that's the way I see it. She's definitely a manipulator. Definitely has some relationship focus issues and some control issues. Like I said, I think that that spa was hers, and she wasn't going to let anybody take it from her, and she was afraid Ben was going to do that. Or that if they ended up getting a divorce because of the affairs, that she would end up losing the spa. And the funny thing is, she ended up losing the spa anyway.
Yeah, it was a mathematical certainty based on the way she was spending money.
And I think that's one of the reasons why she went after the life insurance so quickly, is to try and save the spa.
Yeah. And she never did actually collect the life insurance.
No.
She got the money for the farm, but never.
Yeah, I think that was blocked.
Yeah,
Probably because
they
of the murder
turned that down. Yeah, due to the murder, right?
Yeah. Insurance companies, they're pretty sensitive about that. Life insurance companies in
Yeah,
particular.
life insurance companies, they don't like the whole part where you murder your spouse. They like to investigate those things.
You know, it's interesting, right? Because insurance companies, the premiums are always going to exceed the claims, right? I mean, it's
A money-making
it's
business.
not technically fraud, but it's a scheme. It's a legal scheme, I guess, insurance. So, you know, any reason to deny a claim, anything is music to their ears.
Yeah.
Right? Murder? Do you say murder? Oh, denied.
Wait, it wasn't a snake? It wasn't the snakes? If it was the snakes, we'd have to pay out, but it wasn't the snakes. It was murder. It was a gun. Snakes can't use guns, right? No.
Pretty sure.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Can we check on that?
Make sure of that. Just make sure. If snakes cannot use guns, we deny the claim.
I kind of think that deny is what they come up with first, right? Like, so it's like
Denied.
There's a movie about that. Was it John Grissom's The Rainmaker? You ever see it? Matt Damon and John Voight. Really good movie. Where a big insurance company had this system where they're just passing around claims, and they never got approved. and I think one of the things about watching that movie, and there's also a book, I believe, is it really rings true. Like, it feels like that's what they do.
That's true. Yeah. That's like those home. What do they call them? Home insurance or home warranties or something.
You're never gonna see that. They're never gonna pay that claim.
Right. And it's a big exciting thing because you're not gonna have to pay full price for anything, you know. But then you pay $100 whatever dollars.
No, you pay
premiums.
double because you pay the premium, and then you have to pay for the full service. So they're never going to pay you for anything.
Right. 'Cause you have to pay something when they come out. And, oh gosh, it's a mess. We had one when we bought our house. It was included with the house, and I didn't have to pay anything extra for it, but it was still like, I hate this. And it was as much a nightmare as I expected it to be. Yeah. Even though I didn't have to pay the premium on it, it was as much a nightmare as I expected.
Their claims representatives, like, I'm convinced their training is very limited. It's like they learn how to say, right? So like you call up and like, I had this particular damage to my house. Is it wind? Does it rain? What happened? The wind blew a shingle off. We don't, that one we don't cover. That one we don't cover. Now, if it was the rain, if you'd said rain, I was with you.
Oh, are they asphalt shingles? No, we don't do those. Only plastic shingles. Sorry.
We only cover damage from clay shingles. You have asphalt shingles. Unfortunately, there's nothing. You have to read the fine print in your claim.
And they also,
if I had any wiggle room, I would do it.
I would do this for you.
I can't. I have to. You know, maybe I can pass it up to my supervisor. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, and if you mention any, like they have keywords they look for, like, did you say termite? I didn't mention termite.
Please hold.
It sounded like you said termite.
No.
The connection's breaking up. I can't hear. All I heard was termites by.
No, I said I was going to watch the Terminator later. Nuts.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's it for Lynlee Renick, a case I don't expect to be updated unless she gets out of prison and adds to her collection of murders. I think the judge was right to be concerned, but I'd be surprised if she reoffended at 49. Never know.
Yeah.
Never know.
If she does, she'll probably be more manipulative about it and try and put more buffers between her and whoever does the murder.
That's true.
No doubt, though, she will attempt to rebuild her empire of day spas or whatever. I think it's good that story was so well covered.
Yeah.
Even if there were some discrepancies, because when people search her name, when she gets out, they'll see all kinds
They'll
of
see it.
information.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I hope they see this. Hope they find this.
You can-
In a time capsule.
She probably won't make an ideal employee.
It's like, I don't know. Maybe this will be the #1 search hit on Lynlee Renick
There you go.
when she gets out in 16 years.
Never know. Never know. All right.
That's one of the classic episodes.
I thought everybody saw that. So we want to dedicate some time toward the end to explain. You know, we had a small gap in production. A small,
It's unfortunately a gap.
almost unnoticeable.
No, I don't think anybody noticed the gap.
Yes, it was very.
Yeah.
No. Nobody
think-
said a thing.
I don't think anybody noticed the 6 months that we were gone.
So as it turns out,
It's really hard to film when you don't have a studio.
yes, that the studio is a key part of the process.
Go figure.
Who knew?
Probably underestimated in its importance. But moving a studio and an entire house is
Time consuming.
it's time consuming, and a lot goes wrong. And no one builds a studio. Well, some people do. We didn't build a studio with mobility as a high objective.
Now, with the static nature of our set here, we didn't consider moving it as an essential portion
Right.
of what the studio should be.
Well, that's what we've been doing this whole time. We each have a side, and we just picked the whole thing up.
Yeah, it was
Moved it from one
it was
location
a
to the other.
balancing act
It
to
was
try and
terrible.
lift the whole thing. And
Boy. Took up all of Delaware. Everyone was involved and just had a side. And
I mean, all 12 of us.
right.
Yeah, so there's a lot. I mean, this house I moved into has a lot more room. The studio is a lot bigger, which is good. But yeah, there's a lot of little parts and wires and cables.
And it's
and more
definitely
wires.
not up to union code. OSHA would have a field day.
Yeah, so it was a big adventure, and I had to get the other studio operational as well. And yeah, it was a lot of work, but it's set up now with the fancy new background.
Yeah.
Fancy.
And
Still got the murder board.
yep,
Still got the murder board because this is season 2. We
Season
took
2.
all the season 1 post-it notes from the murder board down there right here.
We have to create.
We'll be
new-
selling them for $5 a piece. If there's a particular one you wanted, leave it in the comments
There you go.
down below. And
they all now have a hole in them, though. Yeah.
yeah, well, they always had holes in them because
No,
we
well,
put
that's
we put these
Novelty oversized.
ginormous
the murder push pins.
the murder push pins. These ginormous push pins went through all of them. So they all had holes in them, but now they have a bigger central hole in them as well.
So now we have to create new conspiracies
Oh yeah,
of all
course.
the stories that we'll be covering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll get another collection going up here, and maybe if we end up doing season 3, we'll do the same thing. We'll pull them all down and put them on the spike o' doom here.
Yeah.
This is our other murder weapon on the table. And as you may have noticed, there's really bareness going on these tables right now. As we decided that we're gonna start brand new with the tchotchkes for this season. Not gonna say put out there for a vote because I already pretty much decided based
Right,
on this thing
right.
is season 2. Lynlee Renick, snakes are a big thing, so next time keep an eye out for a snake in the form of a 2 on this table right here.
Very nice.
So we'll get that in there.
I think people were expecting a day spa.
I'm gonna do an entire day spa right here. Essentia 2. I think that was the name of her. That was
I think that's right.
Essentia.
Yeah.
Was the name of the day spa. So I'll do Essentia 2 as the little
go.
day spa on there, and in honor of season 2.
There you go.
I'm clever. Like
Clever.
that. And I think the snake's going to be easier to do than a diorama of a day spa.
Your little styrofoam balls in there or something, and all kinds of second grade looking things. Yeah.
I don't do things on a second grade level. Like,
But you could. I mean, why not? If you're doing a diorama, you might
like,
as well make it look elementary school.
I don't think I'm much higher than a third or fourth grade level, but I don't do second grade.
You won't stoop down
That's
to
an
second.
insult.
So yep, we're back in action. Studio is operational and open to ideas. Please put any ideas in the comment section. And
New studio. I got a new puppy. It's big news.
a new puppy.
Yeah, we got a new puppy.
Right.
My fiance and I. She's going to be a therapy dog.
Mm.
She's huge. She's going to be huge. She's a German Shepherd and yellow lab mix. She's adorable.
So she's going to be doing what you're saying is she's going to be doing the therapy.
Oh,
you
yeah,
sit
she's
back
smart.
and relax.
She's smart enough. She'll be doing the
Right.
So how does that affect your mother
There you go.
relationship? The relationship with your mother?
So you get to sit back.
Oh yeah.
Once she's
Yeah,
trained,
she's gonna have a master's degree.
you sit back. You're set now.
She's smart.
You make the money. She does the work.
We take her to puppy class, to puppy school, and she's a star pupil.
There you go.
She's gonna have scholarships.
All right. So anyway, back in business, open to ideas. We have a lot of new ones coming out. Alien, lizard, humanoids, of course, will come back as well, and movie part probably.
All right. I think we're kind of combining those on the next episode, right? Like Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine.
I think we're gonna cover Cocaine Bear because it's a great movie, really great movie, but also a really interesting, weird story.
That's true.
So it covers
fascinating
alien vision, alien lizard humanoids, and the movie part all rolled up into one.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, the story was probably a little bit better than the movie, but the movie was interesting. It was. It was definitely.
Ridiculous.
It was absolutely ridiculous, and that was what made it fun.
Right.
It was high energy. It was a high energy.
There you go.
High energy.
Well,
film.
that's what happens when you take whole 15 pounds of cocaine. You get a lot of energy.
All right. Very good. So we'll wrap up there. Thanks for tuning in to season 2, and we'll see you soon.